My mom paid for my flight home, saying, "This is urgent." When I arrived, my sister gave me her child and smirked, "We're flying to Hawaii. You babysat him for a week." I smiled, nodded. In 2 hours, I took the baby to her ex's house and did what they didn't expect. Then I sent one text message. 12 hours later, they were desperately returning to the US in panic, begging me to stop. I'm ashamed of my sister. That's how I'll start this, because it's the part I keep circling back to, no matter what else happened. I've watched her treat her kid like a burden since the day he was born. She talks about him like he's an obstacle, complains that he ruined her figure, her freedom, and her dating life. The truth is, she never even tried to be a mom, and somehow, my parents just let it slide. I thought I'd reached my limit with her a dozen times over the years, but what happened 2 weeks ago broke something in me. It started with a phone call from my mom. She sounded tense, dramatic, and said, "This is urgent, Alan. Don't ask questions, just come. I already booked your flight." I canceled my entire weekend in Denver, including a game and a hiking trip I'd planned for months. I assumed someone was dying. My brain ran through the list: Dad's heart, maybe? Or something with Amanda, or even her son, Nathan? I landed in Phoenix thinking I'd be rushing to a hospital. Instead, Amanda picked me up curbside with a Starbucks in hand and a toddler in the back seat. She didn't even say hi, just pointed at the car seat and said, "You're watching him for a week. We're flying to Hawaii in 3 hours." I looked at her like she was speaking another language. She blew a bubble with her gum and smirked. "Come on, it's not that deep. He sleeps like 10 hours a night. You'll be fine." That's when I realized what had happened. My mom had lied to me. My dad had gone along with it. They'd all conspired to get Amanda a free, last-minute babysitter while they jetted off to Maui, and not one of them saw anything wrong with it. I didn't yell or argue. I just climbed into the car, buckled Nathan in, and kept my mouth shut, not for them, for him. He looked at me like I was the only familiar face in the world. Back at my parents' place, I sat through dinner like a robot while they raved about their wellness resort. Amanda barely glanced at Nathan, too busy counting swimsuits. It made me sick. This kid wasn't a pet or a suitcase you could drop off and pick up later. He was a sweet, observant little person who didn't understand why his mother barely touched him. That night, after they left for the airport, I sat in the living room in silence. Nathan had fallen asleep on the couch beside me, his little hand curled around mine, like he was afraid I'd leave too. At midnight, I packed a small bag, lifted him gently into his car seat, and drove to Mesa, to his real father. Jordan opened the door in old sweatpants, a look of disbelief on his face. I told him everything. I handed him the envelope I'd kept for years, the one with photos, messages, and records Amanda never thought I'd save, the one that proved he had a right to this child. I left Nathan with him. Then, on the drive back, I sent Amanda one message: "He's with Jordan now. You'll need to come back. We've got a lot to talk about." By morning, their paradise trip had turned into a full-blown crisis, and that was only the beginning. They were still in the air when the first wave of fury hit: 3 missed calls, a couple of furious texts, then a full-blown digital assault. Amanda went from shouting in all caps to threatening to sue me to begging me not to do this. My parents chimed in, pretending they didn't know what Amanda had planned, which was complete garbage. My mom had booked the ticket, told me it was urgent, and then casually flew to Hawaii with her daughter while lying through her teeth. I ignored every message. I wasn't interested in explanations or excuses. I wanted them to sit with that panic, just for a day, while they were 3,000 miles away on an island, helpless. When Amanda finally got through to me around 8:30 the next morning, she was borderline hysterical. "You gave my son to Jordan? Are you completely out of your mind?" I didn't answer right away. Then I said, "You don't seem to want him. He looked pretty happy to see someone who does." She kept going, accusing me of kidnapping, saying Jordan was nothing, a ghost from her past, not even the father. I told her she could try taking it to court, then hung up. An hour later, I got the alert: flight changes, first class, no less. They were heading back from Maui, Amanda, my mom, and my dad, after barely spending 24 hours there. So much for the wellness retreat. I checked into a hotel not far from Jordan's place in Mesa and let them panic without me. I shut off my phone and spent the day walking around, eating cheap tacos, and thinking about how long I'd let my sister get away with this crap. It had been years, every holiday, every birthday, every visit, it was always about Amanda, this tight little ecosystem of excuses built around her disasters, and Mom and Dad played right into it. That night, I dropped by Jordan's again. He looked like he hadn't slept, but in a good way, glowing. Nathan was curled up in his lap, snoring softly with a pacifier in his mouth and a toy truck on his chest. I kept thinking he'd freak out, but Jordan told me he didn't. He just kept looking at me like he remembered, he said. He fell asleep holding my sleeve. He offered me a beer. We talked for an hour. He told me he never believed Amanda when she said he wasn't the father, that he offered to take a test, but she blocked him at every turn, lied, ghosted him, then made up a new story for everyone else. The worst part? He gave up because he thought he didn't stand a chance. Now he had one, and I promised to help him make the most of it. The next morning, I drove to my parents' house. Amanda's car was already there, they must have come straight from the airport. When I stepped inside, it felt like walking into a courtroom. Amanda was pacing like she was waiting for a verdict. My dad sat there, silent, arms crossed. My mom looked like she'd aged a decade overnight. "What you did," my mom started, "was reckless and cruel." I told her what they did was worse, lying to me, abandoning Nathan like he was luggage, running off to Hawaii like it was nothing. "You had no right," Amanda snapped. "He's mine. Jordan isn't even his dad." "You sure about that?" I asked. "Because I've got emails, photos, texts, everything you sent me back when you were still honest, before you started rewriting history." She froze. I think that was the first moment it hit her that I wasn't bluffing. Then she scoffed, rolled her eyes, and said something I didn't expect. "Whatever, I don't even care anymore. I'm pregnant again." Everything stopped. My mom blinked. "What did you say?" I said, "I'm pregnant. It's this guy I've been seeing from Tucson. He's Mexican. We're not even sure we're keeping it, but either way, Nathan's Jordan's problem now." "Congratulations." Even my dad looked stunned, not angry, not disappointed, just stunned, like he'd finally seen Amanda for who she was. I walked out without saying anything else. I'd already wasted enough breath. Back at the hotel, I started making calls, lawyers, court clerks, people I knew who had handled custody battles. Jordan needed support, and I was going to help him build the case quickly and solidly. If Amanda didn't want her child, fine, but she wasn't getting to decide who could love him either. The next morning, I met Jordan at a small cafe near his place. He looked different, more focused, like someone who'd just been handed back a future he never thought he'd see again. We had a checklist, everything we needed to get custody started. I'd already called in a favor from a lawyer friend in Tucson, someone who owed me a few solid ones. She agreed to take a look at Jordan's situation that same day. By noon, we were in her office, laying everything out. He had no criminal record, no history of substance abuse, a stable job, a 2-bedroom place with a clean record, and photos of him and Nathan from when the kid was a baby, stuff Amanda had deleted from social media but forgot she'd sent me in old family group chats. I had screenshots of everything, including a voice note from Amanda months ago, bragging about cutting Jordan out so he wouldn't mess up her next relationship. The lawyer looked at it all and said we had a case stronger than most. What we didn't have yet was a paternity test, so I made a few calls, found a lab that could expedite results, and scheduled a discreet appointment for the next day. I had planned to go back to Denver after a few days, but now I couldn't. I booked another week at the hotel, set up a meeting with a family counselor to evaluate Jordan, and started compiling every scrap of Amanda's online nonsense. She'd been posting bikini shots from Maui right before their early flight back, zero about Nathan. It was all about her, always had been. The night after our first legal meeting, I got a message from Amanda, the shortest one she'd sent yet. "I don't care what you do, just don't talk to that freak again. He's not even Nathan's real dad." I didn't answer. Instead, I printed it and added it to the file. The next 2 days moved fast. We got the test done. Jordan went to his first court prep session. Meanwhile, I visited my parents again, not because I wanted to, but because they kept asking for a family meeting. I walked in and found Amanda there too, lounging on the couch like nothing had happened. My dad didn't waste time. "You're helping him take Nathan?" I said, "Yeah, and he deserves it more than any of you." My mom said something about how I didn't understand what it's like to be a parent. I reminded her I wasn't the one who left a toddler with zero warning and ran off to a beach resort. Amanda rolled her eyes and muttered, "God, you're so dramatic." Then I said something that finally hit them where it hurt. "Do you even realize that Jordan has legal options now? Once the results come in, he's not just going to get visits. He might get custody. Full custody." Amanda sat up. "Wait, full? No, he can't. He doesn't even have a lawyer." I smiled. "He does now." And for the first time, she looked scared. "They tried to guilt me, said I was breaking the family apart, that I was being vindictive. But I wasn't doing it for revenge, not really. I was doing it for Nathan, for the version of that kid who would grow up thinking no one fought for him. That ends with me." By day 6, we got the paternity test results back, positive, 99.99%. Jordan looked at the paper, said nothing, and started crying quietly into his sleeve. I just nodded and said, "Let's finish this." Once the test results came back, everything changed. Jordan filed the paperwork the next morning, emergency hearing, custody request, with full documentation. Our lawyer filed an affidavit with every screenshot, every saved message, and the paternity confirmation attached. Jordan's name was going on the birth certificate, finally. Amanda didn't respond at first. She stopped texting me completely and stopped answering Jordan's lawyer, too. But 2 days later, she showed up at my hotel. I didn't invite her in. She pushed past me and stood in the middle of the room like she was still in control. She didn't ask about Nathan, didn't ask how Jordan was doing. She just stared at me like I was a stranger. "I could have left him with someone worse," she said. "I chose you because you're boring and predictable." I let that sit there a moment, then said, "You didn't choose me. You lied to me. You tricked Mom into helping you. You never even planned to come back. She didn't deny it, just shifted her weight and mumbled something about how it wasn't going to be forever, just a week. Then she told me something that turned everything on its head. The guy I'm seeing doesn't even know I have a kid. I told him Nathan's my nephew. He thinks I'm child-free. I laughed. It just came out. You're pregnant again and lying about the first kid? She didn't flinch. That's why I needed a break. I needed time to figure things out. I stood there, watching my sister unravel in real time, not regretful, not even desperate, just empty. Then she asked me to stop helping Jordan, said it was going too far. That was the moment I stopped seeing her as my sister and started seeing her as a threat to Nathan's future. She was never going to be a stable parent. She didn't even want to be. When she left, I called our lawyer and asked what else we needed. She said character statements, witness lists, and any documentation of Amanda's negligence. I had all of it within a day, texts where she left Nathan with strangers, a message to our cousin saying she wished she could drop him off at a fire station, photos she posted with alcohol in hand while claiming to be homesick with him. I wasn't even digging that hard, it was just all there. Jordan was nervous but ready. I stayed in town, going over documents with him at night, helping him prep for the hearing. Every time I saw him with Nathan, I felt more certain. The way that kid lit up when Jordan entered the room wasn't fake, wasn't confused, it was recognition. The day before the hearing, I dropped by my parents' house for the last time. I wanted them to know what was coming. Dad was outside washing the car, Mom was on the porch with a mug of coffee. Both looked tired. We just wanted peace, she said when I sat down. You know, no more drama, I said, then maybe you should have stopped enabling the source of it. She didn't reply, just stared into her mug. I told them Jordan was filing for full custody, that Amanda's name would still be on paper, but this was going to be his fight now. Mom didn't protest. Dad didn't either. Weirdly, I think they were relieved, like they finally realized this wasn't something they could keep covering up. When I left, Mom said, "Don't tell her we gave up. Just tell her we couldn't stop you." I didn't answer because they didn't give up, they just never started fighting. The courtroom wasn't packed, just a few other cases that morning, most of them sad or slow. But when Jordan and I walked in, you could feel the tension coming off him. He was holding a folder so tightly that it was starting to bend at the corners. Amanda was already there, wearing a blazer over a sundress, trying to look pulled together. My parents sat behind her, stiff and quiet, like they weren't sure whose side they were even on anymore. Amanda didn't look at us, not once. We had the paternity tests, the statements, the screenshots, the whole record of how she dropped her kid off and left the country without so much as a signed note. The judge read through it all silently for a long time, then asked Amanda if she had anything to say. What she said stunned everyone. She claimed Jordan had forged the documents, that the paternity test wasn't real, that the lab wasn't accredited, that he and I had conspired to steal her son in a coordinated act of revenge. I almost laughed out loud. The judge didn't. Instead, he leaned forward and asked her to provide proof that the documents were fake. Amanda just blinked, then reached into her purse and pulled out a different paternity test, one with Jordan's name on it and a result that said he wasn't the father. It was dated 2 years ago, and looked official. Our lawyer asked to examine it. 10 minutes later, she confirmed what I suspected. Amanda had forged it. The letterhead was from a facility that hadn't existed for years, the formatting was off, and the test was never submitted into any legal system, total fake. That was bad enough, but then Jordan pulled out something I didn't even know he had, an affidavit from the guy Amanda was currently pregnant with. Jordan had contacted him last week without telling me, and told him everything. The guy, shocked out of his mind, confessed in a notarized statement that Amanda had told him she had no children. He even included screenshots of her texts saying she never wanted to be tied down like her boring brother. The judge's face didn't move, but I swear the air in the room shifted. At that point, Amanda didn't just lose control of the case, she practically self-destructed. She started shouting that we were ruining her life. My mom tried to quiet her, but she pushed her away and called her a spineless old woman. The judge ended the hearing early, ordered temporary full custody to Yurda, while a more formal evaluation would be scheduled. Amanda was granted no visitation until further review. Jordan just sat there, stunned. Me? I walked out like the world had finally tilted back into place. That night, I took Nathan to the zoo while Jordan sorted some paperwork. He giggled the whole time, pointed at everything, and even fell asleep in my arms by the end of it. On the drive back, Jordan called and said something I didn't expect. She's going to run. I got a text from her ex just now. He said she's talking about moving to Mexico. It was the last twist I didn't see coming, and one I couldn't ignore. The morning after the zoo, I got a call from the lawyer. Amanda had tried to withdraw her name from several public records, birth certificate, daycare forms, pediatric files, all requests submitted through a cheap online legal service, the kind of move someone makes when they're trying to vanish. Jordan and I met at his place an hour later. He was already packing a small emergency bag for Nathan, just in case. He didn't say much, neither did I. We didn't go to the police, not yet. Instead, we called Amanda's ex, the one from Tucson, the guy she said was the father of her new baby. He didn't answer the first 3 times, but when he did, his voice was flat. She tried to get me to drive her to Nogales last night, he said. We could just disappear. I thought she was high or something. She's gone now. That was enough. We sent it all to the judge, the messages, her disappearance, the previous forged test. Within hours, the emergency order became permanent. Jordan was awarded sole custody of Nathan. Amanda's rights were suspended indefinitely, pending a full investigation. Just like that, it was over. I spent my final evening in Arizona at Jordan's place. We watched some old action movie while Nathan played on the floor with a second-hand train set. Jordan looked calmer than I'd ever seen him, not happy, just grounded, like he'd finally stepped into the life he was supposed to have. Before I left, he thanked me, not with a speech, not with anything dramatic, just said, I think I got him back before the damage stuck. That hit harder than I expected. I stopped by my parents' house the next morning, mostly for closure. Mom opened the door, she looked like she hadn't slept in days. Dad was in the kitchen, reading a legal notice, probably the custody judgment. They didn't argue, didn't ask questions. All my mom said was, we never thought she'd go. I said, you never thought she'd have to be stopped. Then I left. My flight was quiet. The Denver skyline looked sharper than I remembered when I landed, like everything had gained clarity. That night, back in my apartment, I sent one message, thanks for the help. Never call me again. I sent it to Amanda. I didn't know where she was, nobody did, not yet. But 2 weeks later, Jordan got a package in the mail with no return address. Inside was a single item, Nathan's old pacifier, the one he used to sleep with, the one Amanda had refused to take on the trip to Hawaii because she said it was gross. Jordan threw it away, but we both knew what it meant. She wasn't done, not really, not yet. A month passed. Jordan and Nathan were adjusting, slowly but beautifully. Jordan enrolled him in a local preschool, started reading parenting books, and even bought a car seat that didn't look like it had been held together with duct tape. He didn't ask about Amanda anymore, and I didn't bring her up. It felt like we were both pretending she never existed. Until one Tuesday morning, Jordan called me. I could tell from his voice that something was wrong, but not urgent, just strange. She showed up, he said. I froze. Amanda? He clarified, it was her friend Rachel, the one Amanda used to party with, the one who always had one fake ID too many and slept on Amanda's couch through most of 2022. She gave me something, Jordan said. You need to come here. When I got there, Rachel was already gone. Jordan handed me a flash drive. She said Amanda told her to deliver it if anything happened, then left, didn't even stay long enough to hear what was on it. We plugged it into his laptop. There was one file, a video. It was Amanda, hair tied back, face bare, sitting on the floor somewhere unfamiliar. Her voice was calmer than I'd expected. If you're watching this, she said, I'm not dead, but I'm not coming back. She took a deep breath, then said something that caught us both off guard. I lied, Jordan. You were always the father. I knew it. I just didn't want to share him. You were a better parent than I could ever be, and that made me hate you. She went quiet for a moment, then added, I messed up everything. The second baby? Gone. I lost it. I didn't tell anyone. I didn't want more responsibility. I just wanted to disappear. I thought if I sent the pacifier, I could scare you or remind you I still mattered. She looked up at the camera and whispered, I don't matter anymore, and maybe that's okay. The video ended. No explanation of where she was, no request for forgiveness, just a raw, strangely peaceful confession. Jordan sat still for a long time, then finally said, I don't think she'll ever come back. I nodded. She already left a long time ago. He asked if we should send it to the court. I said, no. Let it stay here, between us. That night, I drove to the airport, not to leave, just to watch the planes take off. It felt symbolic, like something was finally lifting. The next morning, I flew home, and this time, when I landed in Denver, it was over. No more texts, no more lies, no more surprise packages. Just one kid with a real parent now, and a sister I'd finally stopped trying to save.